your professional opinion, if you were buying, selling real estate, participating in the market, what's your play for the next 6, 12, 18 months?
Well, let me bifurcate my answer into investors and consumers.
Okay.
So from an investor perspective, what I'm telling my investor clients to do is keep your powder dry. I don't believe that you invest at the top of a market. Right now, capitalization rates are very low, which means that you're paying, when you buy a real estate, whether it's an apartment building or commercial project or it's something that's sort of investment real estate, you're paying top dollar at the highest level of risk for a lower return. That's the effect of very low cap rates. And that's not a good scenario for an investor. The best scenario for an investor is to wait it out until the market turns down and then start to invest at that point in the market. If you go back to 2008, the people that invested in projects right after the recession and during the early recovery periods are the people that saw the most monumental increases in value and ultimately profitability. So that's what we're telling our clients right now, is to keep your powder dry. Don't sell real estate for the purposes of say avoiding taxes, like 1031 exchanges, because you're just going to take a good piece of real estate and exchange it, save some taxes to buy a piece of crappy real estate. Seems to me that you have to be, every deal has to be evaluated on its own, but that's not a really good strategy.
Right.
The better strategy is to keep it for a while. From the consumer perspective, prices are high right now. If the economy starts to turn, and assuming interest rates stay low, which they probably will,
right,
there'll be better times to buy. But the very best real estate investment I ever made was my first home. And over the long term, I think it's always best to buy a home regardless of what point in the cycle you're in right now, because every high point in the cycle is higher than the previous high point. So even if the market turns down after you bought your house, it will go up again to another level. Right. And so it always sort of pays off to buy if you can sort of scrape to afford it. And we're not building a lot of new for sale housing. The gap between sort of the growth in our economy and in the construction of for sale housing has never been wider. And that means we're not building a lot of condos right now. We're not building a lot of certainly a lot of homes. Right. And so you have very limited new inventory. So when you have a limited inventory relative to strong demand, that means there's always going to sort of be a bid up in prices. So that's a positive for individuals. It's a negative for the economy, because that's, as we've been talking about a lot, that's not a good way to sustain our region economically. But in terms of making a decision as a home buyer, that limited inventory and the prospect for sort of perpetual limited inventory means that your home price is going to get bid up, and right. So it's always good to buy. Having said that, there's a bigger percentage of people than ever that rent, and they pay large rent levels, and sort of decided not to buy, and the tax write-offs associated with home ownership are a little bit less than they used to be. So there's a big percentage of people that will rent versus buy. But if I try to advocate for people to buy when they can, and to start getting to the market and move up in that market.
Right.
So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I always look at it too. Like if this is an investment, it's your home, and maybe you're going to own one, maybe two properties at one time over the course of your life, which is the case for most people.
Yeah.
If you find the home that you actually love and it really fits your needs, and it's good for your family and you can afford it, not to look at it so much as a on paper mathematical investment, and look at it as a great decision.
It's a home,
life.
right?
Yeah.
It's the barbecue. It's your family being raised and so forth. There's the left brain and the right brain, Josh. I mean, there's the right brain should prevail when it comes to your house, and along the way, it's going to increase in value because of scarcity.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing from an investment perspective. I mean, let's face it, most people's biggest economic fortune is sitting in their house,
Sure.
which is not a liquid asset. It's an illiquid asset. It's hard to sell.
Right.
But eventually a house does sell, and you can liquefy it if you need to and move down if you get older or rent. But it's or borrow against it. I mean, it's your major asset. And even as complicated and difficult it is to buy a house today, that still should be most people's goal.